Ladies and gentlemen, you are going to enjoy today's interview. I am here with my sweet babu, Mr. James Monis, and author and former teacher, Mr. Dan Granger, the author of the book Why Is Sam So Sad? Before we begin, Dan, why don't you tell everybody how folks can find you on the interwebs?
Sure. I actually have a website, Dan, DAN, slash Granger at .com, believe it or not. And then you can also find my book at Amazon and Barnes& and Noble or wherever fine books are sold.
Excellent. We will have all of those links up on counterculturewise.com right underneath this interview. Well, let's just jump right on into it, Dan. First of all, for folks who may not be familiar, what is SAD?
Yeah, so sad is when there is no depression, or sad is when there's depression because of lack of sun, and 5% of the population in the world deals with it, and there's millions of Americans that deal with it.
Hmm.
And the worst time is between what was it? Between January and February. It happens during the winter and the fall months, the beginning of the fall and the winter, when the sun goes away more often, and then during the fall, and like I said, during January and February, you don't have Christmas or anything left to look forward to, and that's kind of where the depression kicks in the worst.
Right. And SAD stands for Seasonal Affective Disorder, correct?
Perfect. Yep.
Yeah.
That's right. Seasonal affective disorder.
And
So it's
I'm
during a season that people are affective and
right.
there's a disorder.
So up here in the northern hemisphere, I'm sure it's opposite in the southern hemisphere. but um,
Hmm.
so a lot of people think, oh, it's just depression. Snap yourself out of it. Oh, you're not getting enough sun. What's wrong with you? Is there? What's the difference between sad and just having the blues?
Yeah, so SAD is in itself is lack of sunlight and vitamin D in particular. So when sun contacts your skin, it produces vitamin D. And within cloudy days and rainy days and the winter, you don't get as much sun, and therefore people basically hibernate. That's kind of what I think
Mm-hmm.
about it when I
Hmm.
think of Wisconsin. Is we hibernate, and what we do at that point is we eat comfort foods. We sleep in a lot
Mm-hmm.
over than what we should do. Actually, people that with SAD, they sleep in 2.5 extra hours compared to somebody without SAD. And then yeah, and then depression kicks in, and so all of their negative thoughts keep them busy, or their mind busy.
Right. So why can't people just down vitamin D and fix it?
You can, but that's not really what it is. There is really no simple way to deal with it because it's an annual thing. It just comes on often. See, the problem is some people may not even have it, and some people don't even realize that they have it. It takes 2 years in order to actually be clinically labeled uh, as a somebody with SAD,
That long
and
for
that's because you have
diagnosis.
to.
That's
Well,
interesting.
yeah, because you'd have to go through the
That's what
season.
I
Yeah.
found.
You'd have
Yeah.
to go through the season
Right,
twice
and
for them
that's the
to.
thing.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that makes
Right, because
sense.
it is seasonal.
Hmm.
Right,
Right.
and that's why. And the thing as far as because it is seasonal, that because it is seasonal, that's it's not really like an issue for the majority of the year, so people don't really think of it, and not a lot. Excuse me, not a lot of people necessarily get treatment for that
Right.
because it is only seasonal.
Now
Hmm.
you are Sam. You are
In the book.
Sam,
Yep,
Right.
right?
I am
So,
Sam. Sam is me. Yep.
how old were you when you were officially diagnosed?
Okay, so before we talk about since I am Sam, I'll show you. Here's my book.
Uh,
Here's my shirt. You see
Hmm.
that?
uh,
Yeah.
There you go. And then here's my hat.
that's a happy Sam.
Or yeah, you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Happy
Yeah, there's a
Sam.
happy Sam. And when sad is Sam is sad,
Oh, he's a sad Sam.
he
Sad
doesn't
Sam.
feel very. Yeah, he's a sad Sam. And that
Oh,
these two pictures are actually from the book.
yeah. I really
But
like
since
the
we're
the
doing an
orange
interview and I'm
branding. I
supposed to
think
be
that's
Yeah.
happy,
yeah. Let's make him happy.
The
thank you. I like it
illustrations.
too.
Yeah, the illustrations in the book are
They're
really.
really cute. Did you do the drawings?
No, I didn't. That's actually from the company that I have, which is funny that you're saying that because two of the reviews that I got were like, these are they just ripped apart the illustrations,
What?
and they were like, well, this is not 3D illustrations, and the color is matting is off, and I'm like, okay,
What?
I didn't plan
No.
on having somebody review it who's an artist,
Right. It's a
and
darling
then
book, and
other
it's
people
perfect for
reviewed it.
kids. It's perfect for kids.
No, I
Look at the
thought I
puppy
thought
Right.
face.
it's
Oh, look at the puppy face. It's cute.
yeah, I thought well they did a really good job on that despite what the critics said. I think it helps illustrate the the words perfectly. I think
Right.
there's a very good marriage of the two.
Oh,
No.
so the deal is, when I created the book itself, I was able to, according to my publishing company, which is Christian Faith Publishing, I was able to, in my contract, I got 12 pictures. So then I tried to figure out the pictures that I wanted. And
Hmm.
then I was able to get even more. I paid off to get more. And then there was only 18 pictures. So people were like, hey, your pictures don't match your paragraph. Well, I'm sorry. I tried as much as I could. The problem is, while I was creating the book, I added on to it. And
Hmm.
the very beginning of the bar, well, before I was really happy with the book,
Hmm.
Sam kind of sounded like stuck up, I guess, as you can say. And in the end, the last couple pages, when I talked about gratitude, when I talked about
Hmm.
doing things for other people and not just being a little complaining
Hmm.
kid, it really took shape. And I'm
Right.
very thankful that I actually, got that extra addition to it, because originally
Hmm.
he wasn't. And, I didn't. And then again, this is all research. I had
Right.
Mm.
no idea. This was just, as far as when I created this, it was all just research on its own, and
Hmm.
why, just me trying to think of things to get better. And uh, how this book got created was crazy.
Hmm.
So I don't know, do
I
you want me
think
to talk about
it's
that?
Well,
yeah.
absolutely. I'm also curious why you chose a children's book.
So yeah, so I was a teacher for 15 years in Arizona, and then, well, I'm from Wisconsin, so I dealt with this all my life. And then I went to Arizona, and it was non-existent. It was like I came off the flight, and I stepped into Arizona, and where it's hot and sunny, and it's like I almost took off a backpack of just extra weight that I had on me.
Hmm.
And then I came back to Wisconsin, and I came back to Wisconsin during COVID. And when I did, I worked in a factory, and I look at a wall for 8 hours a
Hmm.
day. When I first came to the factory, we were really busy, so um, we were working 7 days a week, 14 hours a day. And being that, I didn't see the sun
Hmm.
rise.
That sounds miserable.
And by the time I left, and by the time I left, uh, I was by the time I left, it was already set. So yes, I took all these. That was one of the worst. I really hit rock bottom
Hmm.
as far as depression is concerned, and I actually thought out how to leave this world. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
And
You're
so
not
I took
alone.
those
You're not alone.
feelings,
No.
and I wrote them in a book. Now, there's two things that actually happened. One is I created the book, and two, the other purpose that I had in life is I was on a journey, because friends said, my best friend, who I've grown up with from junior high, he needed a kidney. So I was on a journey to give him a kidney, and I was
Oh.
not only going to work, but I was going through all the different hospitals and things like that. I burned through my sick days doing that. In fact, one of my birthdays, I had two IVs in me at the same time.
Oh.
Um, he currently is okay. I did not the one who gave him a kidney. I have both of mine. But as far as a journey is concerned about giving a kidney, it's supposed to be 6 months. So I have a feeling that fate had something to do with giving me a year and a half trying to do that, as well as the author journey itself.
Wow. Wow. So
Mm.
there's so
Yeah,
many
it's a lot
things
to
going
take
on.
in, huh?
Yeah, there's so many
Well,
things going on at once. Um, if you could tell young Sam one thing that would help a child in this situation, what would you tell them?
Um, well, I know when I was growing up, my mom, and this is actually in the book as well. When I was growing up, before I told her anything bad news that I had, I had to tell her when she picked me up, I had to tell her one good thing that happened per day. And my friends would jump in and be like, "Hey, yeah, we did this today." And she would look at me like, "That's two." I'm like, "What? No, hey, I just only one." Nope. He gave you up. You have this too. Okay. I did good on my test today. My locker opened when I needed to. I think that's enough. Yeah. Okay. We'll drive and we'll go. But otherwise, she wouldn't even start the ignition.
Oh wow, that's a good mom. She had you nailed.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, this is, I mean, there's a lot of scholarly papers and magazine articles and books about seasonal affective disorder. This is the first time I've seen it addressed specifically to kids. I think that's wonderful,
Mm-hmm.
because
I'm
as an adult, you kind of grasp the concept even if you don't have it yourself. But to try to explain it to one of your fellow students, for example, and you're in third grade, well, it's not so easy.
Right. And he brings up a good point, and this is one of the questions we wanted to ask you: is as a parent or a teacher, how would you recognize that in a kid?
So what it is basically during the depression time, you're pushing away your friends and family, and you are well for younger kids, it's basically just like behavioral irritability and actually starting. It's trouble actually putting them to sleep, believe it or not. For teens, it's basically like pushing away their friends and
Mm-hmm.
family, and not being part of their extracurricular activities, and so their work goes down. And friends of mine that actually have this, they can attest to that too.
Hmm.
I mean, it's surprising how you can actually bounce back, but your grades do go down during that time.
Right.
um, I talked to my friend when he was in college, and we both had the same thing. um, yeah, I think I answered that.
Do you think that
um,
kids are ever misdiagnosed with bipolar disorder when it could just be sad? I don't want to say just, but you know what I mean.
That I'm not really sure about, and I can only speak to that because I can only speak to what is gone on with my life.
Sure,
Uh,
sure.
as far as myself, I've never been considered bipolar,
Mm.
but I know in some of the research that I was looking at, sometimes they talked about bipolar, and they talked about anxiety, and they
Mm.
talked about depression, almost like all three of them kind of together. Usually, depression and anxiety walked hand in hand, which
Yeah.
is true.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
mean,
Hmm.
it's like two sides of the coin.
Right. Well, I just there's a part of your book where you talk about how people spoke to you like, why can't you just get over it? Why can't you just snap out of it? And
That's
you
always the
can't.
classic line to
Yeah.
people who don't understand.
And I appreciate that you address that from the eyes of a child. It's like, I want to. I wish I could. I mean, even my dog doesn't make me happy. It's like, um, so you lightly touched on this. I want to go a little bit more into it. Kind of the
Feel free.
gratitude, the place of gratitude where you something good happened to you. As far as kids are concerned, do you think that's effective, and how do you encourage that, the gratitude, maybe because we do like the gratitude journal as adults? How do you get kids into that frame of mind?
So there's two things. One, we talked about, I was forced to
Mm-hmm.
give me one thing, one good thing that you had happen today. Otherwise, I won't start the car. And then you can complain the rest of the day,
Mm-hmm.
for
You
the
get to
rest of the
complain
ride.
the rest of the day. That's funny.
Yeah, the rest of the ride at least. And then another thing that I found during my research is one thing anybody can, while you're in the car, every stoplight that you see, everybody says something good.
Oh,
Everybody says something good
we
they're
should do
thankful
that.
for.
We should do that as grown-ups.
Yeah,
Every
wouldn't be a bad
stoplight.
Yeah,
idea.
there's
There
a
are
lot of
times I could use
there's a
that.
lot of cool things that I've learned that aren't necessarily based on, depression, but basically having people be better off. So the other thing you were saying, things that we want to do for children. The Wait, can you rephrase the question one more time?
Well, I really like the
I
idea, the
apologize.
concept of gratitude, and I was just wondering how you could
Yeah.
encourage. So you
So
were giving us ways that you could encourage that with kids, which I think are fantastic.
right. So actually, I in my research, Tony Robbins actually says that you can't be fearful and grateful at the same time. and
Oh,
it's just not totally possible.
I like
So, and you
that.
can't be angry and grateful at the same time. So, one of the things in my research that I found, not necessarily for kids, but it will, you can input it, but the video was kind of more adults. There are two phrases that you can say that stamp out negative thoughts immediately. Granted, when I first learned, I had to, say it about 30 times
Mm.
to get it. I mean, for the one point when you say these two phrases, and I'll explain them what they are in 2 seconds. When you say these two phrases, you're brought right back to reality. And by saying that, I mean, when people get depressed, they get weighted down and their thoughts just bring them to a not very happy place, not very, and during that time, your production of anything you're doing goes downhill,
Mm.
your
Right.
concentration goes downhill. um, and where I work, I know that during the summer I'm more productive than during the winter time. And um, so anyways, those two phrases for, and this is on YouTube by Anthony Medver, and the two phrases that they're ancient Sanskrit, believe it or not. How are your thoughts and how are they behaving?
How are your thoughts
And
and how
so
are they behaving?
That's profound.
correct. And so, when during the Christmas when I found that out, I'm like, okay, well, I'll give it a try. And my thoughts were racing. I'm like, nope. How are your thoughts and how are they behaving? Another thing I talked about in the book is basically scolding myself when, or not allowing myself to be that way,
Mm-hmm.
not allowing my negative thoughts to be there. I believe the phrase I talked about is that I need to remember that it's my sad talking, not
Yes.
me. It's
Hmm.
not my sad making my decisions, but me. And that is really good for, I would say, children, adults, or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
because you can actually step aside and say, this is something individually. It's not necessarily me. I mean, it is a part of me, not that I want it to be a part of me, but it is a part, and you can set it apart because you don't have to be that way all the time.
Right.
I hope I explained that.
No, you
No,
did
it was
really well.
perfect. It was
Another
perfect.
thing you mentioned in
Okay.
your book was helping others, and I see this is kind of turned into a mission for you. You mentioned that now you're a special education teacher, so is that part of your journey, do you think?
Basically, I've been a helper. If there's one word to describe me, it would definitely be helper. I've wanted to be a teacher ever since second grade. I was always helping somebody, and then of course um, in school, I was always the person who would my teachers would always help. They would always hand off whoever to me to, hey, this person needs their homework done, and and I would always be the one to the go to for that. In fact, is any job that I've ever had, I've always been the trainer of whatever it is. And people would be like, okay, Dan, I need this done. Can you train this person? And surprisingly, the people that I do train usually end up being like a boss of me.
No.
Not
Yeah.
that which is fine because I like being the second in charge because with like you said, I taught special ed because I myself am special ed. I have learning disabilities, and the things that I deal with wasn't necessarily reading per se, and it's not necessarily dyslexia per se, but I mean, sometimes I flip my letters around when I was younger. Mine was math, and my big thing with math is that it's order of operations,
Hmm.
and so the difference there's the associate property, which is addition and multiplication. Doesn't matter if you flip your seven or your threes around. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter. You either get 10 or you get 21. Now, if you do that in subtraction, you get a negative number, and
Right.
negative numbers when you're younger is wrong.
Right.
Hmm.
So I was wrong 50% of the time. So what I had to do is, and I think a teacher told me to do this, circle the ones that you can do immediately so your mind can see that. I'm like, okay, yeah.
Yeah. You need your wins
Circle
up
as
front.
subtractions,
Yeah.
and crank out the additions and go from there. Yeah, and like I said, the order of operations was a killer during word problems for, division.
Yeah.
and that's even that order of operations is true for all I've ever done. Is if there's something that I can do that is interchangeable, I'm successful like immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's something I have to do step by step by step by step, I'm not. In fact, one of the jobs I had, I was a grounds crew for Phoenix Airport,
Mm.
which is also called Sky Harbor, which is my
Mm-hmm.
dad always thought was a pretty cool name for it.
Yeah.
So I was a ground crew, and they had me do the labs, which is the lab truck, which in a plane, there's a container that takes your bathroom waste and it goes from the toilet that you have in the airport and goes to a container in itself. And what has to happen is we need to get rid of that and we hook up hoses and things like that and flush it into a truck. And then we take the truck and dump it somewhere else. In doing that, there's a lot of levers and things that need to be done correctly
Mm-hmm.
and in the right order.
Right.
Of
The first
course.
time I did it, the first time I was learning was my boss is like, he like must have taught me like 5 or 6 times. He's like, I don't get this. I don't get why you're not doing this. One of these times, I'm going to just tell you. I'm not going to tell you not to touch, not to turn that lever yet. And you're going to find out what happens. I'm like, no, I know what happens. I just, so when that would be, I would be dumped on if you didn't figure that out.
Right. Right.
And
So to speak.
Yeah.
yeah. And friends of mine actually had that happen. And, they're like, yeah, I'm going home. I don't care how my shift is over right now. I'm
Yeah.
going home. Um, so what happened with me is I talked with my boss, and when we left, we went in, and he's like, I don't know what to do. And a lot of people I've actually talked to are like, I don't know why you can't get past this next thing. I'm like, I do. That's me.
Order of operations.
Um,
Yeah. Well, that's actually good to know about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because then you can
so
start putting things in place to help.
right. So we went inside, and I was frustrated, and I didn't know what to do, and I'm like, so I wrote down my version of what I think it is. And I gave it to my boss. I'm like, here, is this right? And he's looking at it. He's like, yeah, you got it right. I'm like, okay, let's try it again. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, let's try it again. Okay. So we tried it and I nailed it. And he said, you were 10 times faster than you've ever been. And I will not be with you anymore. I have no reason to supervise you. You got it.
So
I'm
you
like,
just had to
cool.
put it into your
And putting your own
understanding,
terms into
in
your
your own
own
terms.
understanding, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And use my version and things like that.
Right.
And that's basically my whole life has been like trying to hack it out, creating special ed hacks or hacks that work for
Uh-huh.
me, like
That's
for
exactly
when
what
I
I
was
do with my
younger.
students. I call myself the queen of cheat sheets because I have to take that information and then translate it, because the way it comes to me and a lot of my students, it's like, okay, I get it, but I can't remember it, right? I can't make it work. I can't make it do the thing I need it
Very
to
true.
do. So I'll do
Right.
it in a different way, and all of a sudden you'll see this light bulb go off. So we have so much in common. Growing up in the
I
Pacific
know.
Northwest and having SAD and being called Mopey Marvin. Literally, I got called Mopey Marvin. Your book really, really spoke to me, and it's so nice to see that not only were you able to be diagnosed as a child and have supportive parents that helped you with that, but now you're passing that on. And I hope this book reaches a lot of kids.
And a lot of teachers and parents too,
Yeah.
because it's going to be.
Tell me a little bit about the journey of this book. When did you first come up with the idea of, I want to write a children's book?
So I think everybody's, have something in their, what's it called? The bucket list.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has
Mm-hmm.
somebody's bucket list. And I've been a reader all my life. And, I tried to keep up with my brother who was a very fast reader. And uh, I learned he used to read shoujo and adventure books, and he would fly through them, and
I love those books.
there were, yeah, me too. And there wasn't like the adult version or the higher version, and then there was the younger kid version, and I became a better reader because of that, because I was trying to keep up with my brother, and
Nice.
obviously, a younger kid or younger brother, idolizing their big brother,
Right.
that's kind of the same thing. So as far as reading is concerned, like I said, I got really good at reading. And my mom's an accountant, so she was always able to help me with math. My dad, on the other hand, was in sales, but he didn't really get me helping with math. Uh, like he had more of a just a that's the way it is, white and black kind of version of
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
math. Like this is 2 plus 2 is 4. Why don't you get it?
Yeah.
And so every night was a fight, and I do mean a fight. If
Mm-hmm.
we, I would get done with all the homework that I could, and then math would be later. And so, whatever happened, it would always took forever to get to that math. And successful getting, oh, I can do my reading, I can do social studies, I can do my science, I can do all that other stuff.
Procrastinating.
And then, well, but then my mom was able to get done all their stuff. So, and then she's like, okay, do you have everything ready? I'm like, okay, I got my chips, I got my Coke, I got my pencils, I got my markers, I got whatever I need. I'm ready. Had I not had comfort food, I probably wouldn't have done,
Ah.
the work. But, and so she always had to make sure that I had the comfort food too, because otherwise I was a pain in the tail
Mm.
as far as like math is concerned, because, the majority of my conversation is like, whoever created math is so stupid. I don't know why they created it. Blah blah blah.
I've heard that a
And
million
when I
times.
No doubt, no doubt.
and when I did, my dad would be like, he would be gone. I mean, yeah, it wouldn't, and a young child cursing because they can't do something, and all he didn't hear the frustration.
Mm-hmm.
All he heard was his son cursing.
Right, right.
So, like I want to go back and I want to take them. I want to go back in time and tell them off and tell them that this math is stupid. Blah blah blah. When I got older, obviously I realized that math is more important and that everything builds upon math as
Sure,
well as reading and
right.
writing. But I didn't understand that, and
Yeah. It
at the
builds the
time,
logic process.
because
Yeah.
right. But if you don't have, if 50% of what you're doing you can do, and the other 50% you can't, you are a failure at that
Mm-hmm.
subject. And that, surprisingly, that's kind of the way it's that if I could go back and I could fix anything for special ed, is that the child has to fail in order to get the support.
Right.
You have to fail. You have to find out that you're doing bad in school. So then a lot of times when the teachers or whoever gets the student during those first 2 weeks, it's not a honeymoon for them.
No,
They're
they've already been
frustrated. They're just
labeled a
like,
failure. Yeah. You're already starting out on
exactly,
the wrong. Yeah. That you're right. I've
exactly. And
never thought of
so
it that way. That's absolutely true.
that's one of the reasons, this is a catalyst for me too. As a crusade, I've always tried to help special ed kids. And when I did teach a couple of, different things, I taught them a success story. Um, my school where I went to college was University of Wisconsin Oshkosh, and they have something that's actually, I guess, internationally known, and it's called Project Success. And before I went to college, to a I had to go to a summer session, and in that summer session, we learned how to diacritically mark things in the dictionary, as well as we got an uplift in that your dyslexia is a gift. And in having it as a gift, I was able to part that through after I, had that summer session, I was able to part that into other things too. And when I had, taught in student teaching, I worked with kids who were dealing with this and were frustrated. I remember one of the kids when I was student teaching, she hated reading, but she liked me.
Yeah.
So guess who worked with reading for any time? Like, oh, go and talk with this girl because she likes reading with you. I'm like, okay. I'm like, if I can help any way, I will.
Yeah.
And when I was a high schooler, I taught. I had a. I was blessed to have the opportunity to go back, through some kind of co-op or whatever. And during one of my classes, I was able to go back, which literally was down the hill that where I went to elementary school and where I went to high school was difference between up the hill and down the hill. And so I went down the hill and I was able to teach with a former teacher. what an experience that was, because she's like, oh, I remember you, little Danny, and I'm like, yeah, I know, and but now, like, I can't believe you, and blah blah, blah, and you're a teacher, and yeah. So, and even even more of success is that I went to my first two-year school, and I ended up getting kicked out. My grades dropped
Oh,
immediately. I ended up with 1.8
ooh.
when I went on to Oshkosh, and they said, yeah, we'll take you, but you have to take this dyslexic remediation course. I'm like, done. And when I did, I was able to get help that they were able to provide, and my scores just skyrocketed.
So
Nice.
they
Other than
recognized
having
it right out of the gate.
other than having an F that I can't get rid of, I didn't know what audit meant. Now I do. But audit means to
Butterfly.
take a class and just not get a grade for it.
Right, right, right.
Right.
But you still have to go. And then if you do that, then it doesn't go against your grade point. However, I didn't understand that. I'm like, well, why am I giving a grade if I don't know if I don't have to go? So the end of the semester came in. I'm like, why do I have an F? He's like, because you didn't go. I'm like, yeah, but I audited it. Yeah, that doesn't mean what you think it means. Hmm.
Mm.
So I have this F on my record, and that, I could have been. I mean, I've gleaming grades throughout my after I left that school, my first 2 year school, which is the neighborhood, the local school that I had, and then, but I still have that F. So I probably would have like a 4 point, but because of that F, I was dragged down. I think the highest I got was a 3.8,
Mm. That's
and
still pretty
then
pretty
and
good. Oh,
oh yeah, totally. I mean, if you take care of the F, it's crazy good.
yeah. That's crazy good. I think Dan, you might have another book in you because not only are you going to help kids with seasonal affective disorder, but it sounds to me like you have another book about dyslexia, maybe.
Well, I would like to do well, I had why is Sam so sad? I was thinking why is Stan so stupid? And then
Oh,
obviously that's something, right. And you're like, oh my gosh, you can't say stupid. You can't. And then obviously in the beginning of the book, he'll be like, yeah, people call me stupid.
yeah.
But am I stupid? No, I'm not. I haven't figured out how I want to do that because I also wanted to talk about, like all the different kinds of special ed individuals. Like the person, this is Adam and he has ADD and something like that, but I don't really know how I'm going to do that. But yeah, that's definitely a book inside of me.
Yeah.
Uh, I do have another book that's ready to go, but not printed up yet and not published yet. But that is like I said, I worked at a ground crew in Phoenix, and I wrote a book about that, and that's called The Rampers, and what the Rampers do. It's a day in the life of the Rampers,
Oh, that would
and
be fascinating.
you look up,
Rampers. Yeah.
right. So you look out the window and you see these little ants running around and doing things like that, which that's kind of how I described it. And you wonder why they're doing things. So I know when I was writing it, my mom was enthralled with it. She was just like, "This is so cool! Like I learned so much just from this book." I'm like, "Okay, I didn't really think. Okay, cool. All right, we'll go with that." Surprisingly, when I was writing the Rampers, I had to stop because I had to. It was called, well, if you want to go with religion, I was called to write the sad book,
Mm-hmm.
and I put the Rampers on hold. So the Rampers is done, and every day I get my mom nagging me like, "You gotta get the Rampers out. You gotta get the Rampers out. You gotta get." I'm like, I know, but I'm working on the sad thing. But what we want to do is we would love to put that into airports and
Yeah.
have them in gift shops. I don't know how we do that. Uh, but that is definitely the dream of mine is to have that be in airports.
Yeah, I think the only thing
So
people
that
ever
would
focus
be,
on
it's
is
not,
luggage, and that's all they think is, baggage claim. They don't think about all the other intricate pieces that go into them getting a soda or being able to flush the toilet. They probably don't even think about that.
right. So in the book, I talk about the journey of the bag and what the bag actually goes through. And I talk about it in like a real, elementary version. But it's not a kid's book, but it's more of a chapter book because there's a lot to say. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think there were like maybe seven parts to it. I think it was 7 chapters, we'll say, in order to get to the end of the book, and
Mm-hmm.
what it all entails, like filling up filling up the filling up the plane, and then the plane coming in, from the plane coming into plane leaving.
Mm-hmm.
All of that is in there, and I have information from my bosses that were there, and they thought it was really cool that I was writing a book, and they gave me. I'm like, is this true? Is this exactly what it is? And they're like, yeah, this is okay. You got it. This is right. This is right. Add this and blah blah blah. And yeah, that, believe it or not, was my second favorite job in the world, or second favorite job I've ever had, because I was in the sun all the time,
Oh yeah,
busy,
yeah.
and like I said, it was in Phoenix, busy and communicating with your friends who 3 or 4 people, depending on how busy the flight is, and people you rely on, and people that you were goofing around and hanging out with, and you'd hang out with them anyways, and you just got a good bond because you're accomplishing a task that you need to do, but you're also friends because you do it all the time.
Mm-hmm. So that begs the question: why are you no longer in Arizona when that was your happy place?
Oh, um, when COVID hit, I needed to leave. Um, you're the first person who's asked me that,
No,
and
I can only imagine how awful COVID was for anybody who suffers from that, because you already alienate yourself on the off season, and now you're being forced to alienate yourself even when the sun's out. That must have had just a horrible effect on you and anybody who suffers with SAD.
right. Well, I I no longer really am a teacher. Everybody's like, why don't you do teaching? I'm like, I can't be around. It just, I lost it. So what happened is, my dad, I used to live with my dad. I was living with him when he was in his last later years in life, and he was ailing, and I was taking care of him. And he passed away, and he's a big part of education for me. He would come up and visit me in college, and we'd go get something to eat, or a beer. I don't know if you want to say that there, but
No, yeah,
That's
it's
fine.
college,
we've
so
said worse.
yeah, yeah. So right, and so we would both look forward to it and hang out together. And Then he also was a part of my educational experience. With He would come and read to my kids and stuff like that. Like they got a chance to meet. And so when he passed away, it was rough. I mean, I lost a part of me that used to want to be the teacher, and it just wasn't there anymore. So coming back from Arizona during COVID, where um, actually, I don't remember, what was it, maybe like 20% of the flights were, probably less than that. I took a picture at one point, and like everything was delayed. All the flights were, during COVID, all the flights were down. And so the company I had, the company I was working with, they said, you can only get 2 days out of the week.
You can't survive
And I'm
that.
like, well,
No.
that's not going to help
Yeah.
me. So I ended up leaving, and I ended up coming back to Wisconsin. And during COVID, I mean, everything was shut down. I
Yeah.
ended up, you know, hibernating hibernating and trying to wait for a job. I mean, there was no jobs available. I
Right.
tried everything.
Yeah, you and I had the opposite paths when everything shut down. I ended up getting into teaching because everything went online. Um,
Right.
and that's what led me into teaching, because before I was traveling and doing all that stuff, and when that all shut down, so we had the opposite. So other than writing, what do you do now?
Um, it's been busy just trying to do this stuff. Like, so after work, I am busy. Basically, has been just doing the book, or another company I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be a public speaker, which again is something we're related.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm doing that. I'm trying to pursue that, and uh, creating my PowerPoint and things like that. but that's taken a lot of time. But everything that I've done is related. Everything is
Yeah.
helpful to some way, shape, or form. That I didn't, think it was going to be like that. All my research that I've done to try to help myself help me with the book. When I learned about the gratitude thing, I'm like, I have to put this in the book. Um, and so, I can talk about that. Sam he writes a list of gratitude, and that's actually his gratitude actually is on my webpage now. I'm like, I gotta have that. That's really cool. I gotta, because I really am I really am for having gratitude. I don't think we are thankful enough for what we have. Um, I know there's a song that talks about I have four walls. It's my life might be crumbling or something like that, but I have four walls around me, and I'll make it through the day or something like that.
Yeah.
It's by a group, Real Big Sea or something like that. It's not that. Great Big Sea, I think it's called,
Great Big
and it's
Sea.
a group out of Canada. Yeah, it was a great group out of Canada. It was huge, and the reason I liked it is because I like the there's a Chameleon in the Sun, but I can't remember what that song is, and they do a version of that, and their version is more acoustic and stuff versus like the rock and roll version. Anyways,
I do remember a song
yeah,
called "Run Runaway" by the band Slade that has "See the Chameleon lying in
that's
the
that's
sun."
the one.
Okay,
That's the one.
Run,
That's the
okay,
'cause
one. But I couldn't
everyone
find it for
run,
years.
run,
I'm like,
run. Hey!
all I remembered is a chameleon, like
yeah.
blah 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 chameleon. I'm like, no, I don't want to come a chameleon. I don't want the
Yeah.
Culture Club. I want the other one.
Yeah,
But I
Yeah.
couldn't remember what that
Oh,
was.
it's
I
Yeah,
remember
no,
that
that
song.
yeah. And so if you look up, I want to say Great Big Sea, and like I said, they're out of Canada and they did really well.
Yeah, Great Big
Um,
Sea, like the ocean, a Canadian folk rock band. I've got the interwebs over
did you
here.
find it?
What was the name of the song?
"Run Runaway."
Well,
No.
uh, I can't remember. It's like four walls around me. I can't remember what
Let's
it
see.
is. It's the one that has the
Fortunes.
rugby players on it. If you're looking for
Ordinary
pictures, it's
Day.
the one with the rug.
I've got
Yes.
a smile on my face and I've got four walls around me. I've got the sun in the
See?
sky, all the water surround me. Oh, you know. We can't play it because we'll get taken down, but I'll put a link to it on our interview so folks can listen to it. Um,
So another one, oh, sorry.
no, I was just gonna say this.
So
I can see how you would attach to this song because basically you're what keeps her from. Um, it tells the story about Janie and how she picks herself up and in this beautiful life
mhm.
there's always some sorrow. It's a double-edged knife, but there's always tomorrow. Oh, you know, you can sink or swim. I'm gonna have to listen to the song. I like the
Yeah, well,
lyrics.
and then you should listen to the Slade one because, like I said, that was the first one that
That
got
one
me.
I know.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but listen to their version because it's really cool. So they have that one's a one singer, and then they changed the sing. They changed later on somehow throughout their. But yeah, those I was a real fan after I heard that one, and then a couple more, and I was like, I'm hooked. I'd never heard of this before.
Yeah.
Um, so I was talking about when I was talking about gratitude, and I was talking about the what is it, Anthony Medford. There's another link that you're going to want to put on there, and that is from Hal Elrod. Yeah, that's not Elrod, not the L. Ron Hubbard, but Hal Elrod, and he talked about your 5 minutes of going through whatever it is. So you get 5 minutes to go through frustration. So what happened is when he was in sales, his boss pulled him aside. He's like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. He pulled him aside. He said, look, you get 5 minutes to do however you need to do, and then you
Five
get
minute
back at it.
rule. Okay.
You can, yeah. So you can get mad, you can get sad, you can get whatever you want. You get 5 minutes, and you get back at it, and you go back to that call. And so in order to do that, he ended up doing that, and now he's talking about that. And this is more research I found. That was found on impact theory, where he was interviewed. Um, and he talks about he went through a huge, I think like he was 17, and he went through a really bad accident when he was younger, like a car accident. And then later on, he like suffered from cancer. And
Oh.
when he was told he suffered from cancer and he was told by the doctors, he's like, okay. And the doctors and everybody in that room was like, you do know what we're saying, right? You do know that you have cancer, this is life threatening, and you need to be taking care of yourself, and are you delusional, or do you understand what we're saying? Like, yeah, I do. Okay, how can you be like this? And he's like, I can't change it.
Right.
I can't change it. I only can change the way I look at it.
Right.
And in doing that, he did as much as he could. He went through therapy and he did every kind of thing that he could in order to get to where he was. And then, he, fought that off just like he fought off, learning how to rewalk again. I think he learned to rewalk again. Don't quote me on that, but it was a
Yeah.
really, really interesting video by Impact Theory.
And they have done many studies, and attitude has so much to do with recovery. So much to do. I remember when my mom was diagnosed, she instantly went out and got every comedy she could get. She goes, "I'm just going to laugh myself well," and she extended her
Oh,
life.
that's cool.
She
Haven't
extended her.
heard that one.
She extended her life for a good solid year,
A
longer
guy
than
named
they
Norman
said.
Cousins wrote a
Yeah.
book about that concept.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and she did. I mean, why focus on the bad?
Anatomy of an Illness, I think it's called.
Yeah. Well, Dan, I want to give you a chance to tell everybody where to find you. We went all over the place. You have so much to tell the world. I can't wait to see your next book. As soon as that puppy hits, you let us know. We'll have you back on, and we will pimp that one shamelessly. I can't wait to read it. It sounds
Awesome.
very interesting, and I hope you end up with a whole series of the things that you went through as a kid and how you overcame them and how other kids can do that. I think this book is darling.
It's great. It
I
really
think
was
it's going to
good.
help a lot of people, and I hope to
Thank
see
you.
this. I thinking your book about the airports would be really good for kids who have fear of flying, and take that angle, because if they understand what's going on, and they get an interest in that, they won't be focusing on the fear. So it might even help some adults.
I didn't really see it as like fear of flying, but I know that um, when I was writing it, a friend of mine, her she's a teacher, and one of her students he's focusing on certain things, and he's like, oh yeah, he loves airplanes. I'm like, really? Well, you know somebody who works with airplanes, and okay. So I talked to a pilot, and I'm like, hey, is there any possible way that I can get one of those little pins you guys have, those captain pins that you can get for kids? He's like, yeah, give me a week. Next time I see you, when I come back again, I'm gonna come in this flight. I'll have one for you. Sweet. Okay, cool. I kind of forgot about him. It's a week. He comes over. He's like, here you go. It's a bag. It was a bag of these pins.
Oh my
So
goodness.
this kid, which is, he was so funny to hear about. He has trouble communicating with others, and he was very shy. And so when he had this, he didn't want to give it away. Like, he was thinking, the pilot's like, yeah, now you can give it away to all your friends.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's cool. So he gave away little by little, like, but those first 3 weeks he didn't even want to give away any. And so not only did it give him, a ability to talk to somebody about, planes or something like that, but it also gave him a chance to meet friends and make friends, and
Yeah.
the social thing. Um, and that's what's going on in our world. It's there. We're not connecting as much as we need to.
Right.
We're losing a lot of uh, we're losing a lot of communication skills,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
it's harder to be everything now. Every kind of profession, it's just a little harder, especially with kids. I mean,
Yeah.
it used to be like, well, I will, learn something about what you know in order to relate to you, but it's getting harder and harder. Like, I got a standing ovation when I found out who Pikachu was when I was student teaching. Like, and then and then Harry Potter came out during that time, and they're like, "Are you related to Harmony? Are you her dad?" I'm like,
Hermione.
"No."
Oh, it's because of the
Yeah,
different name.
Hermione. Yeah, Hermione, different grade. Like, no, no. I'm like, okay, all right. So then, but yeah, the standing ovation I still remember, because like, everybody stand up. Mr. Granger knows who this is. I'm like,
That's funny.
okay, but your teacher's teaching. Like, I just told you that. I'm like, sorry.
Yeah, I have to be on it because I have kids from fourth grade all the way through college, so I have to know all kinds of crazy things. So yeah,
Oh, I'm sure.
I know my
Yeah.
Pokemon, I know anime, I've read all the Harry Potter books. It's like it's yeah, I've been reading the Diary of a Wimpy Kid,
Uh-huh.
and whatever it takes to get through, whatever it takes, yeah, I'll do it. And every time I have
Yeah.
an English student that is reading a book that I haven't read before, I'll find it, I'll read it, just so I can converse with them and help them. And so yeah, meet kids where they are. Well, we are actually literally running out of time, and I want to make sure that you get another chance to tell people where they can find you on the interwebs. So where can they find you
My
in your book?
website is dan-granger.com.
.com. That's easy.
And you can find me, yeah, totally easy. Just that dash, like a subtraction sign.
And can they get your
Because I,
cool hat on that website?
I'm trying to figure out how to do that. I actually have another shirt. I have two shirts that I'm working on. So I have this t-shirt, which I showed you, and
Mm-hmm.
then I have a long sleeve shirt, and down here says the word gratitude.
Oh, I
And I
love
have
that.
that in English and Spanish.
I love
So
that.
I'm trying to figure out how to do that. The buddy I work with, he makes, like I said, he does t-shirts, and so he'd be happy to make more, I'm sure. I don't know how we're going to do that. I haven't figured that out yet. I know that some people have been really excited about the hat. These are all just number one individual right now.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, at the very
and
least, you
then,
can sell them in the back of the room when you get your speaking career launched. That's always where you make the dough, is in the back of the room.
oh yeah, yeah, I plan on selling what I can,
Yeah.
definitely.
All right, so
And then like,
dan-granger.com, and then of course your book is on Amazon and every place that good books are sold. We will have all of those links on our website. And looking forward to having you back on the show, Dan. I'm really excited for all the things. You've got so many irons in the fire right now. I hope that you keep up your motivation, and let's not be sad anymore. We've got to get you out of Pittsburgh, though, dude. You got to get back to Arizona where the sun
you're
is.
killing me. I actually have my Packer thing right here. There's Lambeau Field.
Oh,
See
wow.
it?
Wow. Okay. That's
Yeah,
nice. That's a really nice track
not
record.
not Heinz Field. Sorry.
Uh, I know
Uh,
nothing about that area. Once they told me that it snows, I was out. Forget it. Nope. I'll stay. I'll stay in the sunshine. Okay.
yeah,
Is there one last thing that you would like to tell anybody who might be listening?
I would love to. Well, I would like to finish the way that I would sign a book, and say that. Um, so I'd say two, and then say, Sam and I wish you much happiness as you create your own list of gratitude.
You create your own list of
Perfect.
gratitude.
Great
Perfect ending.
way to finish.
Dan, it was a sincere joy talking to you, and I look forward to seeing you grow and see more of your books come out and having you back on the show anytime.
Absolutely, anytime.